Chief Foreign Correspondent Trey Yingst is in Tel Aviv this morning and joins us now with the latest on the ground. Hey, Trey.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. It was a joyous celebration last night here in Hostages Square as hundreds of thousands of Israelis gathered for what they hope will be their final rally, with the families of some of those hostages expected to be released by Hamas behind them, along with some former hostages. President Trump's daughter, Ivanka Trump, son-in-law Jared Kushner, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff addressed the crowd about this historic peace plan. What does this moment mean to you?
It's the moment of my life, a blessing in my life. And I couldn't be more thrilled to work for the greatest president out there, Donald J. Trump. He brought him home.
Anticipation is high in these final hours. The hostages are expected to be picked up by the Red Cross inside Gaza and then transferred to Israeli forces. Then they'll be reunited with family members and flown by helicopter to local hospitals for medical treatment.
Now is a critical time. What is required of the members of the Knesset, members of the government, and the one who heads it is zero mistakes, zero mishaps. It is time to finish and send them home now.
The hostages are set to be exchanged for nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. 142 of them are expected to be deported abroad, 100 released into the West Bank, 5 to East Jerusalem, and 3 to Gaza. Inside the Gaza Strip, Palestinians continue to return to their homes in areas formerly controlled by the IDF. New images show the scale of destruction within the enclave.
We fled our home under artillery fire, leaving everything behind. The house was destroyed, with all our belongings inside. We have nothing left. No clothes, no bedding, not even money to go anywhere. Here I am, pushing the cart with my own hands, just trying to move forward.
Tomorrow, President Trump will arrive here in Israel. He'll address the Israeli Knesset before traveling to Egypt to finalize the peace plan. Guys, back to you.
Wow, Trey, it's just historic times, and your reporting on October 7th and over the course of the past 2 years has been exceptionally unmatched by any. And, as you are now reporting on this and witnessing it, there's just so many potentially historic moments, not only the ceasefire and release of the hostages, but also the sort of shifting paradigm with which the Middle East could change if phase 2 comes into play. Really strategic diplomatic opportunities that President Trump has been talking about. What do you think?
Absolutely. This peace plan has an opportunity to change the future of the Middle East forever. What President Trump has presented is the framework for an agreement that could lay a foundation for more normalization deals with Israel. But more importantly, I think to last night, we were here in Hostages Square, as we've come so many weekends, to speak with the families of those being held by this terrorist group inside Gaza. And you could see relief on the faces of Israelis for the first time in 2 years. Griff, we were here on the morning of October 7th in southern Israel as this horrific massacre took place. And for 2 years, Israelis have been waiting for their loved ones, for their fellow countrymen and women to come home. And in the next 24 hours, that wish will be granted. And you heard the remarks from President Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, and from Jared Kushner, two of the men who have been working around the clock to make sure this deal gets across the finish line. But there's one man that I met today in Hostages Square that really stood out to me, and that's the brother-in-law of Omri Meron. And we spoke with Lishai Meron so many times throughout the course of this war. Her husband has been held in the tunnels beneath Gaza by Hamas, a peaceful man with 2 young daughters at home. And in the next 24 hours, we hope to see the images of Omri hugging his 2 young daughters. And to me, that is the most important of so many representative stories that we continue to cover here. These hostages that have been held by Hamas who will finally, after 2 years of waiting, be reunited with their families.
Is that your sense that there's just an exhaustion from war and destruction on both sides? I mean, we're going to hear the stories of, for example, of this hostage that you were just talking about as he comes back and recovers and starts to recount what happened to him in those tunnels and how he was tortured and treated. And then, like the story you just so magnificently showed us earlier of this man just carrying a wheelbarrow with all he has left in what looks like a nuclear disaster. I mean, it looks like I've never seen anything like that before. this idea of peace continue as we start to sort of unravel and start to understand just the scope of the destruction and the death? 1,200 on the Israel side, 60,000 on the Palestinian side. What are you know this area more than anybody. Can this happen? Can we get a new beginning? Can we finally get a two-state solution with peace on both sides?
Absolutely. And I think when President Trump spoke from the White House initially announcing his 20-point peace plan, he did something very important. He humanized Israelis and he humanized Palestinians, saying there are people who want stability and peace here in this region. And that's the hope here in the aftermath of this agreement. Once the hostages get out of Gaza, that it's going to be a turning point for the Middle East. And there are so many in the region who are looking for that stability. Remember, when this terrorist attack happened on the morning of October 7th, no one could have imagined that it would have snowballed into a massive regional seven-front war. And when you think about the past 2 years, you had this massacre on the morning of October 7th and the war that erupted inside Gaza. But you also had a massive conflict erupt on Israel's northern border with the Iran-backed group Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. We've seen the Houthis launching missiles and drones at Israeli cities for the past 2 years. Of course, the 12-day war between Israel and Iran over the summer, and these Iran-backed Iraqi and Syrian Shia militias that have launched attacks into Israel. And so there's been a lot of instability across the Middle East, and there's a real longing for many that we talk to across the region, civilians here in Israel, civilians that we talk to in Gaza, for a new chapter. And the hope here is that President Trump's peace plan is not just a peace plan to end the war inside Gaza, but an opportunity to press the reset button in the Middle East and see more stability and prosperity across the region.
So we have rightly spent a lot of time talking about the innocent hostages that have been held by Hamas, but we've spent a little bit less time talking about the literally hundreds of combatants that Israel has agreed to release in this deal. Can you tell us more about some of those combatants and who exactly they were or are?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Israelis are going to have to give up nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners in exchange for these hostages, and 250 of them are people who are serving life sentences in Israeli prisons. These are people who have been tried in a court of law and convicted of crimes such as bombings, murder, assassinations. And so many of the people who are going to be released into the West Bank are people who have been convicted of terrorism charges. There's also 1,700 approximately Gazans who have been arrested since the beginning of the war that did not participate in the October 7th massacre who are going to be released as part of this deal. And so it's a variety of different individuals coming out of Israeli prisons, but there's certainly been some controversy here in Israel, understanding that during a previous prisoner swap, there was one very hardened terrorist who was released, and his name was Yahya Sinwar, one of the masterminds behind the October 7th massacre. And so that institutional memory for Israelis is certainly here, and they don't want any of these individuals who are released to go back and commit other crimes or acts of terrorism. And so you can expect Israeli security forces are going to keep a close eye on many of these people who are released as part of this agreement. But the bottom line here is that the priority was getting these hostages out, and President Trump presented a deal that allowed that to take place. He created a series of conditions that allowed Israel to make this exchange and ultimately in the next 24 hours bring these hostages home.
Yeah, and he picked amazing people to do these negotiations, especially Steve Witkoff, who has done a remarkable job. What an outside choice, and yet it worked. And Trey, I want to thank you for your coverage. It's always fair and balanced, as our network loves to do, and you have just done a remarkable job since October 7th to the end, and we want to continue to hear more. Yeah, and many years before that. But in this conflict in particular, your voice has been much needed. Thank you so much, Trey.
Thank you, Trey.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.